So in today's video, we're going to talk about Arne Slot's 4-2-4 and whether it is a 4-2-4, 2 false nines, or a 4-2-4 strikerless. Interesting to know your thoughts right now, so put them down in the comments. Which one are you leaning towards? I've leant towards a particular way, just watching a couple of games over the last few weeks and looking at a few statistics, heat maps and stuff that will all show you. And then you'll kind of get an idea of why I've gone down this route rather than the other. However, I have put together two tactics for you, an F9 version and a strikerless version. Both are working tremendously well in the game. And as you can see, we've made a really decent start. Only one defeat so far at Newcastle. We've just smashed Palace 7-1 with us using 45 minutes of an F9 tactic and 45 minutes of the strikerless. So both either way, I think maybe depending on which team you are, will kind of decide which formation you're going to do. However, I said both working well. Liverpool obviously changed depending on the players that they have available at the time. So obviously the game against Manchester City, Núñez is kind of out of it a little bit at the moment. Jota's in and out with injury. And I think Cody Gakpo was also injured. So they've done it as strikerless, but I suppose you could do Jota and Gakpo as two false nines. You could maybe even put Núñez up there as well. So both work. As you can see, don't worry about that. But we're going to dive into the real little differences between the two systems. A lot of it is generally the same. It's just what we're doing with the forward players. And an interesting discussion as well about the wing backs. Okay, let's get into it. Smash a like on today's video. Let me know which tactical recreation you would like to see next Monday on the channel. And as always, Patreons, both tactics are now available for you right now to download. Link down in the description. Thank you very much for your support on that. If you're not a Patreon, don't worry. We will go through all the team, player instructions, little tweaks that we've made so you can copy it into your own FM24 save yourself. Let's go. So this has been the team that I think played the last two games against Newcastle and definitely the team that played against Manchester City, because that's the one that I've watched most of my time. And obviously they sat in a lower block against Manchester City and did counter a little bit more. So that was maybe a little bit more of a one-off than what they've done previously during the season. But what they had was that front four of Diaz, Jones, Szoboszlai and Mo Salah. McAllister, Gravenberch sitting with Robertson, Van Dijk, Konate, Trent. Maybe their strongest 11, you would say. I would probably play Cody Gakpo on that left-hand side rather than Diaz. But anyway, basically what they were trying to do was block the middle of midfield, stop passes coming in. Manchester City did it as well with Foden and Mamouche because Haaland was out injured, but they did it very differently. And I think the Liverpool version has worked quite well. And this has led me towards having the tactic more as a strikerless rather than what everyone was kind of calling it and what people are still calling it in terms of two false nines. So we need to kind of understand the rules of the two false nines, what they do in and out of possession. I've got a couple of little clips, a couple of little screenshots to show you and the differences between the two. So something to be aware of. Now, what we don't want with the two false nines is them starting too high. And generally in possession, that's what they're out of possession. That's what they do. You kind of end up looking like this 4-2-4, like a classic 4-2-4 that you would see in Football Manager with the two wide players in sort of like the attacking winger slots and then the two strikers up front. They would do is they would stay up there while the ball is out of possession. So if the team is attacking, the opponents are attacking Liverpool, you would see Jones and Szoboszlai staying as two strikers. When the ball is then turned over, you would then see the movement of these two then dropping in to make that 4-2-4. And it's not quite what we want. If we look at the game against Manchester City, this is the pass map. As you can see, there is your 4-4-2 or your 4-2-4. Salah and Diaz are the furthest player forward. Now, if we did that in FM with the two false nines, you would generally see Szoboszlai and Jones higher up the pitch and looking more like that classic 4-2-4 formation. So that has led me to the changes that we've made. Obviously, out of possession as well, we want the team to shape up a little bit differently. The Newcastle game as well, very similar. McAllister a little bit higher with this one. Jota actually played instead of Jones. But you can see, definitely two attacking midfielders rather than the two false nines. As I said, you wouldn't get that in the game. And this is kind of proving it with these screenshots here. So this is the first clip. And this is the first half against Crystal Palace. We played with the two F9's. And as you can see, we've got the two strikers in Szoboszlai and I think it's Curtis Jones there. Extremely high. It might have actually been Jota, actually. Extremely high. And it's more looking like a 4-2-4, 4-4-2 out of possession. So they're kind of hunting down the centre halves, However, generally Liverpool wanted to do, especially against Manchester City, they dropped the 2 DMs back to kind of deal with these wider players. Palace playing a little bit differently, but they're playing with 2 10s. So it's kind of that false 9. You know, you could argue that this could have easily been Marmoush and Foden. And that what they would do was they would bring back the 2 defenders, the 2 holding midfielders, rather than Birch and McAllister, and bring them back maybe 10 yards in around maybe that halfway line area to deal with that. And then what they would do is Jones and Szoboszlai would then drop back onto the holding midfielders of Manchester City. So that is something, you know, it's not as if it doesn't work. It works absolutely really well. I'm looking at maybe doing something in my York City save. Go check that out, by the way. Classic Let's Play series where we're trying to take my team York City from the bottom of, not at the bottom because we're doing quite well, but Vanarama, trying to win the league, Premier League and the Champions League, something I've never done with my team before, so go check that out. Something that I would like to do potentially with this 4-2-4 and we're really maximise your wide players. And as you can see, just to flip side, it's a different kind of scenario that we're going to try and play out from the back with Crystal Palace, but then Henderson's decided to go long. The ball is lost in it. It's basically coming down here somewhere. Szoboszlai and Jota's position out of possession is a lot better. They're in and around the 2 DMs. Obviously, Crystal Palace playing that 3 kind of 4-2-1 formation with 2 DMs and 2 10s. This just gives us a little bit more. As you can see, Salah and then Diaz, it gives them the opportunity to be a little bit higher. So I do think a strikerless formation works better with how it should look. But as I said, both tactics are available. There are only little tweaks as well. Something that you could maybe change in game. You know, we've often started like this. And then if I've brought on maybe a Cody Gakpo and a Nunes, or a Nunes and a Jota, we've then moved it from a strikerless to the false 9. So there's different variations you can do. Just gives you a nice little bit of change in here of how you build up what the strikers do in terms of movements in and out of possession. So we will watch the goals from the game. There's 7 goals. 5 of the goals came from Szoboszlai and Jota, who were playing as the 2 false 9s or 2 10s. So we'll see how the goals develop. See if we can see anything in terms of the movement of the players. So this is the first half with 2 false 9s. They will still, I think the false 9s get into these areas a little bit better. They end up being, look, Szoboszlai there, Jota is there, right in the middle of 6-yard box. I do think if you want in more of that poachery feel, I think people confuse false 9s with players that will just drop off. They drop off in build-up, but when it gets into this attacking third in here, they do get forward right into the penalty area in terms of being, you know, poachers, strikers. There's Diaz at the back post, tapping. Obviously, we're going to get that with his role playing on that wing. Second one was from a set piece. Third one, by the looks of it, yep, that was Konate's from a set piece. And then just before halftime, once again, good win, good finish from Jota. If we just bring it back a little, as you can see, this is the start of the attack. Striking positions start high. And then I wonder if, because we are in the final third, look, they stay in the box. No, they're hunting, they're playing as 2 central strikers. Something that the Liverpool didn't generally do that much. The 2 players like to drop in, start a little bit deeper and then attack space in behind, especially Szoboszlai. And then into the second half, we changed it, so we're now playing the strikerless. And as you can see, they're maybe not, they are getting into the penalty area, but then, first thought, I think if these were false 9s, bearing in mind where Diaz was, they would be a lot more further up. You know, in particular, no, neither of them are in the penalty box when Crystal Palace themselves have got 3 defenders in there. We get a little bit lucky with a knockdown, Mo Salah, and then Szoboszlai finishing. Obviously, he's playing as a shadow striker, so I'm going to be making that late run into the box. And then once again, they're occupying a little bit of the half space. What they're kind of doing is similar to what maybe an F9 does in this scenario, where it drops off a little bit. And then now we have got Szoboszlai coming in late as that shadow striker. Mo Salah interested in not getting on the score sheet in this game, but creating loads of problems with that little bit of space in behind. There he is again. If we bring it right back. So they start in high areas, look. In possession. So they start quite high. There's not much of a difference between the 2 in possession. It's more of the out of possession. So here. Let me just bring that back. So we'll play from here. And as you can see, Szoboszlai and Jota, if I just mark them there, just on the edge of your screen, there. They're now protecting the 2 DMs, and that's the difference between the 2. So wait up. If you want them to press, you know, we've struggled a little bit in games with possession numbers when we've done the strikerless because we've put absolutely no pressure on the 2 centre-halves. If you wanted to press the 2 centre-halves, you're probably then going to have to go down the route of the false 9. Okay, now, one little thing that I wanted to talk about before we get into it is actually the role of Trent and Robertson. So, interestingly, at the start of the season, when they played, this is the win against Manchester United, when everyone was looking at the differences between a Klopp system and a Slot system, it was building up with this more narrow back three. At Arne Slot liked to bring in his two fullbacks almost into sort of like the half space areas and allow his wingers to be as wide as possible. Helps with a little bit of build-up, and he kind of did this frequently at the start of the season. And generally, as you can see, so the thicker of the line means the more passes between the two. So as you can see, the build-up play between Verge and Robertson here is more. Does it give you a number? Yeah, 19 compared to 10 passes coming from this side from Konate and Trent. Bearing in mind as well that you really want this ball out on this right-hand side. So they were generally trying to build up with a three, with Trent being a little bit more, I wouldn't say an inverted wing back. It's not what we want in the game, and it's not what he tends to do. And it's impossible to recreate Trent's role. It varies game to game. However, if we match that up against the game against Manchester City, Robertson a lot higher. Now, you might argue as well that this was Manchester City, so obviously the defensive line's a lot deeper, but there you can see the passes between Konate and Trent is now 29, whereas the passes between Verge and Robertson is only 7. And then when you flip that, this is the game against Aston Villa, so Robertson again a little bit higher, Trent holding his position a little bit. So it's been a tricky one to kind of recreate, and we're going to now go into it and see if we can recreate it in FM. Now, I did very, very briefly in the game against Crystal Palace use Trent as an inverted wing back. I only put it on defend because we didn't want him to do those like a doggy Pedro Porro runs that are really aggressive in between the two centre-halves. We didn't want that. We wanted him to come in a little bit narrow, but this is why I've kind of clicked off it. So as you can see, we've won a free kick. Robertson's on it. We're lining up there with our 4-2-4. This is the first half, so playing with our two F9's. So when is he about to take it there? 45:36 look on the clock. And then 4 seconds later, the pass has gone into Virgil, and look where Trent is. He's way too narrow. He did that at times with Jurgen Klopp when he was trying to come up with a solution to stop them getting outnumbered in the middle of midfield. But this is not what we want. So the inverted wing-back for him has completely gone. Okay, so we're going to build it from scratch. So everyone now, if you don't want to be a Patreon, you can copy it as you go. So, Alisson, sweeper keeper, we've actually just put him on support. Not spoke a lot about him. His role has maybe become a little bit more calmer under Slot. Less kicking long, early, rushing it. Obviously, that sweeper keeper on attack. You kind of think of that more like direct play. So, the issue we've got with this is I've been playing him as a wing-back on complete wing back on support, with then Robertson as the wing back on defend. Now, this was more familiar with the system that Slot used at the start of the season when they were trying to build with this back three with Robertson, Van Dijk and Konate and allowing Trent to go on. Now, it's changed a little bit over the last few weeks. You could argue that it's now flipped reverse. However, if we do go wing back on defend for Trent Alexander-Arnold, we can cross more often, which is good, but we can't take more risks. So that is a thing to weigh up. It works both ways. Obviously, if you are going to go wing back on defend for Trent and have him building, what I did have on Robertson on the other side is to sit narrower. So we build with a little bit with a back three. But this is the system that I've been generally rocking because you want to see the best. We want to see the best out of Trent, don't we? So I had the instruction as well of take more risks and cross more often. Konate, the two centre halves, both ball playing defenders. But because of the role of Trent, Konate, if Trent does go, the idea is that Konate is in this position covering. So what I do tend to do is my right centre-back is have him on stay wider. And then the left-back in Robertson, because we want him to sit, he does get forward. Don't think that he sits back. When the play advances into the progression third, like the middle third and then the attacking third, he gets involved. However, I do want him to sit a little bit narrow. What we want to do is try and open out that passing lane into Diaz a little bit more. So if he comes narrow, it hopefully allows Diaz to be open for maybe a ball into Diaz to Robertson, then he can bend a pass round with his left foot. That is the back five. Gravenberch, I had him as a defensive midfielder on support, and the only thing I did was just dribble more because when he gets the opportunity to carry, he wants to carry. I don't want him to sit and just pass. I want to get a little bit out of him. Obviously, he's a really good carrier. McAllister, we had him as a deep line playmaker on support. Mo Salah on the right, it has to be inside forward on attack. And then the player instruction, I'm not going to do stay wider. In his earlier days, he definitely did stay wider, but he's a lot narrower now. And I would also go ease off tackles. Szoboszlai has worked really well down this right-hand side with Salah. We did have him as a shadow striker, which he can do really well in the game. And then the early player instruction, just roam from position because he was allowed to drop a little bit deeper. He would drop into these wider areas and allow Mo Salah to go in. I think we kind of got that with one of the goals against Crystal Palace when Salah went through and then Szoboszlai hit the rebound. Jota, attacking midfielder, or the Curtis Jones role, no player instructions, blank attacking midfielder on support. And then Diaz, to make sure that he's a little bit higher, we go winger on attack for him. Now, if we were flipping it the other way, I would simply just move those two players up to be the false nines, no player instructions. Two false nines, which they both actually hate in the game. I don't know how much that would damage their performance in game, especially because Szoboszlai in particular is not used to it, not comfortable playing it. I would potentially, once again, do roam from position, at least on one of them, so you just get a little bit more movement in terms of perhaps moving into wide areas and helping maybe the midfielders out. But obviously that's an in-possession thing. So out of possession, they're still going to stay quite high, which is not exactly what we want, but it's still a really effective tactic. Into the team instructions, we have positive mentality. It's kind of gone away from that Jurgen Klopp over risky, direct. We're going to be a little bit more patient with it. We have got pass into space and we want to hit Diaz. We want to hit that third man run from Szoboszlai. We want to hit that ball into Salah. So we still got pass into space on. I've gone slightly shorter as well because they still move it quickly. There's an element of a little bit more control. We've not had to tweak the tactic yet. I do think if you're wanting to really dominate games a little bit more, knock it down to shorter and slightly higher. But Liverpool still do play a little bit more direct than maybe what a Slot's team did at Feyenoord. Time wasted never, with low crosses on. I think that's quite important with the balls that we get into the box from our wide areas. In transition, counter press, counter when we can. We won't get much opportunity, but if we do play with that strikerless formation, it does allow sort of like the team to drop off just a little bit and allows that space in behind once we've won the ball. Take short kicks, distribute to centre backs. Generally the pass now from Alisson. And then out of possession, Manchester City, they sat a lot deeper, but we want them up the pitch, don't we? They dominate games, much higher, high press. Left all this because we don't want to prevent short distribution. The idea is that we want them to try and pass the ball. This is where they got a lot of joy against Manchester City, was trying to allow that ball to go to the centre halves. And then because it's Manchester City, they're wanting them to play through the thirds. And with trap inside on, the idea is that we stay nice and compact. Can we force that ball into the middle where we've got them two DMs, those two 10s? Can we force it in there and get a turnover and then we can break? And then the last one, cross engagement. I have put invite crosses just because it's Verge, it's Kanate, it's Alisson. We're comfortable dealing with that. Let's stay compact. Let's not allow them little through balls between centre-backs and full-backs. Get your full-backs in nice and narrow when we can. And let's deal with the crosses into the box. Okay, that is the tactic. Two of them, as I said, both available for now for the Patreons. Link down in the description. Let me know who you would like to see next. I'm so excited for the PSG-Liverpool game. I absolutely love PSG, and despite being a Man United fan, I do really enjoy watching Liverpool, how they're playing at the moment with these two 10s. Interested to know your thoughts. Put them down in the comments. If you think I've got it wrong, no problem. Just be polite. That would be great. I do think PSG might just edge it, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you later.
I'm the chap with the red scarf on, going around singing we are York. We're City, play pretty, that is our style of football. How charming, just like the Minster, a pint of bitter and a slice from Ginster. Walking the walk, talking the talk, and singing we are York. Climbing up the old division.